Welcome back to Virtual School Assembly. Today our guest is Natalie Shugars. Natalie is a nationally renowned singer, actress, three-time Maxim magazine model, and host and creator of the hit show Nat Around Town. Natalie has performed nationally from stages in Vegas to the House of Blues. She's dropped her first original song. Actually, now she's dropped 3 singles for her upcoming album, which has been put on hold with COVID, but she has 3 singles out now. And her show, Nat Around Town, is a Pittsburgh-based lifestyle show. I love this. It showcases the city that Natalie loves and where she's been. And she's pivoted again with that, doing Natalie at Home over the coronavirus. So doing a ton of things, has been involved, as a singer, as an actress, as a model, doing all those things. But it didn't always start out so glamorous from her. So Natalie, let me hand you the virtual microphone so you can tell us a little bit about how this story all started for you.
Well, thank you. Yes, it's, it has been a crazy journey, but life is always about the journey, right? And yeah, it was definitely, I've got to do some really cool, fun, incredible things in my lifetime and travel and meet some really just absolutely influential people of our time. And one of them is right behind me. That's Smokey Robinson. So, he, of course, wrote so many hits and, for the band The Temptations and so many of his own. And so anyways, just really cool people that I've got to be surrounded by, but I never would have guessed that I would have had this, really great life experience, based upon how the shaky beginning was. And, like many kids, I was, bullied, in school. I was a little itty bitty thing. And so I got kind of made fun of for that, being so tiny, and would get, picked on with that. And I also really didn't come from anything. I grew up in a single wide mobile home. And so a lot of people made fun of me for that. I didn't have, and my parents couldn't afford all the time to, buy me all the hip, trendy brand name stuff a lot. And so of course, that kids were hard on me for that too. So, so growing up with all that, and as well as my folks had a very, very rocky marriage. And so my home life, there was always a lot, was roaring with fighting and arguing. And, it wasn't a very healthy environment mentally and what I had to see physically between them go on. Mm-hmm. And so I would, kind of hide myself away in my bedroom, and I would sing and I would dance and I would watch some of my idols, which were, Elvis Presley, because he didn't come from much of anything either. And I thought, well, if he can do it, so can I. The good old fashioned all-American dream. And, Tina Turner to Britney Spears to Madonna and all of them. And I would try to mimic them and whatnot. And then I finally got to high school. And, that kind of gave me a little bit of gumption to go after some of those things. And I got more involved in theater programs and singing, as well as I was a very athletic girl as well. I did track and I was a cheerleader. And so I was kind of friends with everyone in school, not one certain clique, but I loved everyone. And I had such a diverse Gemini personality that it kind of fit me. So I was like all over the place. And so anyway, but by the time I got to high school, I had a very unfortunate incident take place. And, especially for the seniors of 2020, I can really relate to them in a sense that I never got to have my milestone moments of my junior, senior year with prom or wearing a cap and gown and graduating because, unfortunately, there was a girl who it came out later in court, and she was charged with a felony and 2 misdemeanors for attacking me because the bullying turned more than just of words. It turned physical. And my jaw was broken in 3 places. My nose was broken. My jaw was wired shut for 8 weeks the summer of my junior year. And I wanted to audition for Juilliard. I was a bit of a goody 2-shoes. And I was, this whole different person before this happened, to be honest with you. And it really changed. That instant really changed the outlook and the trajectory I had in my career, in the sense that I kind of, I got a little a little angry, at the world for a little while. And I now know that it was okay to feel different things, and you could feel upset, or that, I don't understand why this happened, so that you could learn and grow from it. And so those like lessons really put me in check with the things that I didn't even know I was going to need right around the corner with is what happened in my career. So and instead of going back my senior year, unfortunately, my high school at that time, which was under complete different leadership, they didn't really know how to handle it properly. Nothing like that had happened in this little small town where I grew up, and so it was a learning experience for all. But unfortunately, I didn't really feel safe to return. And I ended up getting privately counseled, with the credits I needed for graduation. And so I graduated early. And so I didn't have that typical milestone experience. And I know what it's like to live with that as an adult, which is now why with my show this summer, I've been bringing some of the seniors on and giving them a platform to talk about things and work it out. And hindsight, though, I have to tell you, it was one of the best things. Life sometimes always has a funny way of having a plan or working itself out, as long as you know how to overcome that adversity that was handed to you with a good, positive mindset. You can help turn something negative into a positive. And I didn't even realize I was doing that, when I was young. I just knew it was like survival, and this is the way my mind was geared to operate and work. But looking back as a reflection, it actually gave me some of the things I needed to build that really strong foundation, physically, mentally, to build on going into this crazy career that I was going into of the world of entertainment.
Right. Well, I want to talk about that mindset for a minute, because I think a lot of kids watching this, they can relate to parts of your story. So most kids will say, well, this wasn't ideal about my childhood, or this wasn't. And I'll admit, I had an almost perfect childhood. I come from an awesome family in a small town, and things went well. But even for me, nothing was perfect, right? So my family moved my senior year. So I missed all those milestones too, because I couldn't be a student body officer if I'm in a new high school and things like that. And so even those who have kind of a different upbringing, I think we can relate to life doesn't always go as planned. And COVID is certainly a testament to that life doesn't go as planned. So bearing that all in mind, I'm curious how you developed this positive attitude, because it seems like everything was against you. How were you able to remain positive even with all the uncertainty and all the challenges that you faced?
Well, thank you. And yes, and certainly, it's a very challenging time right now, learning how to adapt to whatever, is thrown our way, being resilient and perseverant. That's something that you've got to do, and you've got to wax and wane with life. And, it's very true. When life hands you, lemons, go, okay, I can either sit here with my lemons, or I can turn them into something like lemonade, right? And enjoy and enjoy the drink. But honestly, it was not easy. And I think it was, I've always just been kind of a happy, bubbly person, in nature. That helped me. I'm definitely more of an extroverted person. That helped me. And, learning how to become, and use some of those elements, if you're more of an introverted person, but use what your strengths are. Know who you are, find out who you are. That's very important, and learn how to love yourself and give yourself the respect and the love that you need to make yourself, again, that strong foundation. And to stay healthy means mentally and physically healthy, right? And I did just that, because so physically I was always out there burning a lot of energy because I was a professionally trained dancer. I always joke and say, back in my day, I was like Britney and Gaga before they, were out and about, but yeah. And so I was learning how to do that. And then mentally, going into the entertainment business really helped me, because you have to stay so positive, because, there are always so many no's. Everyone's telling you to do this or to do that, or do this more, don't do that, don't say this. So you've got to know who you are, right? And you've got to be able to have a thicker skin. And you've got to be able to overcome, rejection many, many times. And so knowing who you are and being able to sort of keep your eye on the ball and what your goals are, and learning how to be perseverant and not give up easily. Was just kind of the name of the game.
Hmm. Yeah, well, and I think that that's a challenge for everyone, but I love your advice here. There's so much we can do, and sometimes it's just recognizing that those hard knocks against us can make us stronger. And, you know, I love that you might be the only person I've ever talked to that said Hollywood made me stronger, made me better, but it's because of the rejection. It's because of
Yeah.
it's a hard industry. Let's fast forward to some of the things that you're doing now, because you've been involved in so many different things in the entertainment industry, between modeling and acting and singing. How did that start from you? How did you get from high school to all these accolades that you have now?
It was a crazy but very fun journey. And, you know, something, you know, that I will say, a couple of good things to keep in mind. It really is about the journey. And it also really also, it's about the company that you keep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the journey I'm about to tell you, I was able to do that because I was never, fear not. And I was able to always surround myself with very good people and learn how to recognize and let go of those who are not, you know. So, you know, figure out, you know, what brings you, you know, positivity and fulfillment, and then, you know, to let go and recognize it when it doesn't. So you keep those things in check and you'll be able to keep moving forward. And that's basically what I did. So I left, you know, here and graduated high school when I was 17 years old, on a tour bus. So like, that was crazy, you know, definitely a very unconventional life and upbringing from the very beginning. And from there, I ended up touring up and down the East Coast, and I was in a different town, a different city every week doing cover music, you know. And back in the day, you know, that was a little bit different, you know, and there was a lot of like live music that was going on, and a lot of the different I'll say nightclubs, you know. And that, so life's a little different now. There's not a lot of that going on, especially of course in COVID times. But after that, I ended up moving to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I became the lead singer at the House of Blues there. From there, I did cruise lines, and I had my band on the cruise ship, and we used to do, you know, all of the different, you know, from the theme nights, if anyone's ever cruised with their folks or whatnot. And that was a blast, getting to see and travel, you know, the world and learn about different cultures and, you know, different people, and you know, it just, the diversity that, you know, came and bestowed upon me as this little girl from Latrobe, Pennsylvania, you know. And then from there, I went out west. So I played all the big rock stages in Las Vegas and Los Angeles. I began my modeling career when I was in the Carolinas and acting as well. And then of course that carried West Coast. And then I ended up meeting an indie record producer who signed me to my first record deal outside of Atlanta, Georgia. I worked on my first album, but there was only one problem. It was a different era. Country music wasn't quite what it is today. And I wasn't quite a huge fan. I wasn't sold, even though I loved like Patsy Cline and some of the classics, Johnny Cash and all that stuff. I was more of, I was a little edgier. Like I said, I was like Gaga before Gaga was out, you know, and you know, I was more like, you know, Gwen Stefani and Britney Spears if they had a music baby, you know. And I wanted to dance. I wanted, you know, more of that pop rock. And so I kind of call it my Forrest Gump moment. And that's when, you know, Forrest Gump, when he's running in the movie and he's got this team behind him, and they were shopping me to Sony Records. And, you know, I was supposed to do that, to be the younger Shania Twain. And I had this whole team behind me. And all of a sudden I just said, I want to go home now. I just stopped, and I needed a break. You know, it had been 10 years nonstop strong of go, 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 go. And so I packed up my bags. I moved back to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I ended up falling in love with this city, kind of like Carrie Bradshaw loves New York City, you know, from the hit show, you know, Sex and the City. And so I enjoyed it. And then I became the first female to write and record a Steelers fight song, which kind of helped get me on the map back home. And I've just been networking and making a lot of waves since, and, you know, proud to be their black and gold girl in a sense. And now I'm, you know, a little Pittsburgh pop person. So
Yeah, well, it's incredible. Not just that you've been able to accomplish all that you've done, but I love hearing that you were able to say no to some things, come back home, and still have success. Now, most people wouldn't think of Pittsburgh being this amazing music market, or for any of the things that you're doing, but you can find a way to make that work. Certainly, if the talent's there and if the work ethic is there, you can make those kinds of things happen. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the Black and Gold, because I love this part of your bio that you wrote this fight song for them, and you've kind of been involved with the Steelers since then. Can you talk a little bit more about, why you wrote that in the first place and what's happened with that?
Sure enough. Yes. And thank you, by the way. That's very kind of you. And yeah, Pittsburgh, you wouldn't think it, but we actually, what I recognized here, and again, it's learning how to wax and wane. And when I came back here, I had seen that we had risen from just being what I love, and which we all still love. And what's great about this city in particularly is that we don't forget where we've come from, even though we were in this beautiful renaissance. And, we were voted most livable city a few years in a row. And of course, Bon Appetit magazine with all of our restaurants, so that, the city was just blowing up, and Google's here, Uber is here. And I mean, so it's a mecca. It's turning into being quite this cool melting pot itself. And I wanted to be a part of that from the start. And so part of that obviously was doing this song. And honestly, I wrote it, which is kind of funny. I wrote it on the back of napkins. And it was, just a simple like spoof of Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll. And I grew up with football, from my grandfather and my dad. And so literally it's very, very true. If you are born bleeding black and gold. But what's so funny is it doesn't mean just football. And I was able to talk about a full circle moment in life, which I find to be such beautiful moments. I was able to tell Greta and Art Rooney this, who were the owners of the Pittsburgh Steelers. In 2017, they had asked me to rewrite my song that I had originally written the year we went to the Super Bowl. It was the 08-09 season. And they asked me if I would rewrite this song for Dan Rooney, who had just passed away the year prior to. And so I, of course, said absolutely. And so then they had me be the celebrity performer for the Pittsburgh Steelers fashion show that they do annually. And I was backstage and I got to tell them, thank you. And honestly, the reason it meant so much to me is because, again, being brought up with these blue collar roots, it's in our blood. And when you're born Pittsburgh, you're born to bleed black and gold, which is more than football, as I just mentioned. It's about being resilient and perseverant. And, this steel town has faced some really low lows. So have I, Yeah. And it's kind of like Rocky, it's not about when you hit those lows. Life is going to hand you so many lows and so many highs. But on those lows, it's not about getting knocked down. It's about how you get up, and to me, the Steelers they really represent that well. And they came along, especially in the 70s, when this town was, now a city, of course, was going through some real adversities herself. And, she was not exactly this power positivity, and the steel mills were closing, families were losing their jobs. But football gave us this really great, entertaining break for 4 hours, and every Sunday. But not only that, they represented now going from this non-winning team to becoming these huge Super Bowl champions of the world. And it's like, wow, they became sort of an inspiration to the city to say, well, they can do it with hard work. So can we. And so that's kind of, that's what meant a lot to me to be able to do that, because it was more than just, it's not just football. It's about who we are as people in our hearts.
Yeah. I love hearing that. It's interesting. We've had a few people on the show from Pittsburgh now, and similar feelings, even though they're not necessarily football people or whatever. We had Joe Batista in the first season, and he's a hockey coach from Pittsburgh, and he just loves Pittsburgh for the same reasons you're talking about. It's this grit, it's this town where you've been through a lot and you've learned and grown through that. We had Charlie Brenneman, an MMA fighter, on for part of season 2, and he's from Hershey, Pennsylvania, but identifies as a Pittsburgh boy. And it's a similar thing. In fact, he named his son is named Rocky. And it's just about that fighter spirit, you know? So I love hearing that. Now, we talked a little bit before the call today about a cool experience you recently had going full circle now with high school. You missed out on some of these things when you were younger. Talk about what the experience you just recently had going back to high school.
Oh my gosh. Honest to goodness, it's so crazy. I've been a very blessed woman, and I've accomplished some cool stuff. I've got some cool awards, and I will tell you though that the two coolest things that have happened to me in my life, because clearly this hometown experience was not exactly this positive one when I had left, but since I've been back, I had one of the teachers who ended up becoming the author of the legendary Locals of Latrobe book. And they put me in this book with only, 200 people of our entire history. And along beside me is Fred Rogers and Arnold Palmer. And so, those are two huge names, and they're from my hometown, MI. And so now I'm in a book with them. And at first I thought I was getting a prank call. I'm like, you really? It's so cool. And so anyways, and they put me on page 57. And so a little kind of cool thing is because they know I love the city of Pittsburgh now, and, Heinz 57, like the ketchup, So anyways, so that was a really cool thing. And so then my high school called upon me, and they brought me back for homecoming, for the pep rally for homecoming. And I hadn't been back since that tragic day. And I will tell you, it was just, I'll get emotional. Somebody pinched me, because, here I am, I'm going up in a helicopter at our airport and, speeding down my runway and coming into this assembly, we're doing virtually now, but the pep rally assembly and having the entire high school there with me and them talking about my accomplishments and hearing the crowd just roar with excitement because I was an alum. And they were proud of me, and I'm so proud of them. And it was really a beautiful moment of, you never know how life is going to turn out. And, you got to keep going and keep fighting for what you know in your heart is right, no matter what career path you're going to go down. Know who you are, keep your morals and your values in check, and stay positive, because look how it can be rewarded, and the best rewards in life are those kind of simple moments. And that was just meant the world to me.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. It's been so fun hearing your whole story today and seeing how it's kind of come full circle for you. I love that because it feels almost like a redemption story in a way. But, starting with those bullying experiences as a kid, and then seeking out and following your dreams, it's just something that I think this is going to inspire a lot of kids out there who want to follow their dreams. They just don't know how to get started, or don't maybe have the right mentors. And now you're providing that here on this virtual stage. So thank you so much for spending this time with us today.
Oh my gosh, Tyler, thank you so much for having me. And, I would love to see, anyone who has any aspirations of getting into the business. Something I'm looking into doing is to start mentoring some folks myself, maybe in this next year, once I can get my album out and finished. I'm going to get that done first. But yes, if I can help anyone in any way, my email, anything, just reach out. I'm always here.
Cool. Well, and we'll link in this video, we'll link to your website, natalieshugars.com, and any social platforms. If kids want to connect with you or whatever, we'll go ahead and link those up in the video description. So that's so great. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with us. It's been wonderful to have you on the show.
Thanks, Tyler. Thank you for having me, and best of luck to everyone. Have a great day.